Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, welcome to Friday morning Sidelines, man. Got a great lineup today. They're all great. We got great guests. That's what makes a great show. We want to have a great team. Got to have great teammates, great coaches. We got it, man. Ben Troupe sitting in the batter's box, going to bat lead off this morning. Ben Troupe down in Savannah, ESPN Coastal. And we'll be talking some college football and a lot of stuff that is happening. Baseball. Second segment, Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, checks in with us from Oxford. And then Ken Capps, one of our favorite guests, regular during football season and a lot during the offseason as well. He'll be up at Northwestern in Evanston, Illinois, receiving a prestigious journalism award that they're awarding him with. He goes, Rob, I will be on a Big Ten campus. And so we got to remember, it's on the Big Ten campus. I'm covering, I'm up here. I'm a Texas grad, but I'm getting a prestigious award. And we're going to talk with him about that. Hey, 6 days a week, 25 shows a month, 50 hours plus content. You want to be great at something? Repetition is the mother of all skill. Ben Troupe probably caught 10 million passes in practice over the years, but when it mattered most, he brought home the bacon. All right. So 6 days a week, follow us on all social platforms, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, Google Smart TV. If you want to watch us on TV, I know Dr. Waller May and the fine folks at the May Veterinary Clinic in Tuscaloosa in Northport, Alabama, put it on in the waiting room on Google Smart TV so they could see us and they can see Big Ben. I love the hat and I love the beads, man. In fact, when I was a kid, my dad, one of my godfathers, Uncle Quincy, lived up on Lookout Mountain. Went to Auburn with my dad, was a fellow architect, and he had the beads like that hanging in the doors, Ben. You're too young to remember the hippies and stuff like that, but this was really – you've obviously – very, very well cultured because, I mean, the beads, they had them that you would have to walk through them to get through the door.
You talking about a bead curtain. My grandma had a bead curtain. Yeah.
I'm
talking about my great grandmother had a bead curtain. So she had
they were cool. You just walked through them, man, and you just kind of felt a little bit cool. But hey, man, we're here talking college football, baseball, basketball, recruiting. That's what we do. That's who we are. And so let me say this real quick. Today, there'll be a ribbon cutting for rumbleboxinggym.com in Midtown at 1835 Union Avenue. And let me get this. Make sure ribbon cutting is now at 2 o'clock on Friday. That is today. Memphis Chamber of Commerce, Ted Townsend, the chairman, 50 ambassadors, possibly Mayor Jim Strickland, and the media. The Go Party is still tomorrow, Saturday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Chamber ambassadors. So refreshments and shade will be made available. All of our classes are free from today through Sunday. It is first come, first served. Go to our Rumble IG account, website, app, or call us at 901-593-2522 to book your bag and box for free. Member discounts end Sunday for good, so join now. And the Win Arkansas barbecue contest, Ben, Michael Jordan and I, not the Michael Jordan, but William Michael Jordan, went over yesterday afternoon and knocked off work early and then started cutting the 5 acres here on the John Deere. And then it rained, and I finished last night about 9, but we went in between, took some of our barbecue rigs over there. We're going to be cooking for the next 2 days. It's a Kansas City-style barbecue. It is brisket, shoulder, chicken, and you're doing the ribs, of course, which we do about 10 slabs every weekend during hunting season over here. It's an eat-a-thon, but we also have to do an anything but category. So it's going to be different. It's anything but barbecue. So we've got some cool things, a cocktail, but again, Kansas City style, it's different. Are you a beef barbecue, brisket guy, or pork barbecue guy, Ben?
Man, I do like beef brisket. I mean, I think it's a better cut. But I mean, I'm brisket to me is one of those meats to where people that's really, really good at it.
Yeah,
you kind of don't want to eat nothing. Like if you've ever had really, really good, whether it's pork or beef, it's because we all grew up on the chicken. We all grew up on the pork sandwiches, and I'm not throwing that away ever.
Yeah.
But I always say the closer you get to like that Kansas City down to the Texas area, y'all specialize in that brisket, man. I mean, y'all really and it's I appreciate brisket because brisket is one of those meats where you got to know what you're doing. It ain't ribs.
Yeah.
It ain't, so you got to know what you're doing. So I will say, yeah, I'm more of a brisket guy, but I mean, if I'm not gonna walk by the pork brisket and just look at it like, hey, I'm gonna need some of that.
Well, the cool thing is we do that beef brisket and MJ will cook it. If it's 15 pounds, it's about 15 hours. We've learned it's about an hour a pound, but the wind and the humidity, all that stuff's got to really be in your favor. But I mean, it is so good. We had Audrey's cousin, Mark Ham, does Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report, has the biggest tailgate on the hill in Knoxville, probably 300 people. It is insane. And they cook. It's unbelievable. It's like Memphis in May barbecue contest, and they do brisket and all. And when we were up there for the Tennessee-Alabama game, October 15th, Audrey and I saw Roman Harper on one of those little scooter things. He'd been on the SEC Nation set before the game, and he was taking that little scooter, riding it. Roman's a pretty damn good athlete. You probably know him. He was scooting down the hill, Knoxville, very hilly, hence the nickname The Hill. And we said, Roman, come here. So we went over there, and my wife said, come on over here to my cousin's got the biggest tailgate up here. He said, I'm in. He went up there for about an hour and hung out with us, and we ate brisket that was so tender, it was like eating spaghetti noodles. And Roman is a connoisseur. And by the way, he's one of the most gracious people. I bet 200 people asked him for a picture or autograph. Ben, I can't imagine. I mean, you're a celebrity, and that's wild. And he was so gracious and so kind. And when he's on this show, last time he was on about 3 weeks ago, he had one of his kids had gone to school, didn't feel well, brought him home. Then he wanted to go back, but he did his segment with the show with us and was taking care of stuff in the kitchen. But the cooking, the barbecue, brisket is, you got to really know what you're doing to make it happen. But that's part of the tailgating. Speaking of that, I was watching on SEC Network this morning when I was exercising early, the replay of the Auburn spring game in a torrential downpour. Chris Doering, I'm sure you know him. Yeah. He's really, really good. And I'm wondering when you're going to be doing some TV. I think you'd be really good on that. Chris is so easygoing, and it's like Buddy Martin and friends talk about him. I think he went to PK Young or Buchholz.
Yeah.
And grew up a Gator. I mean, just that was from birth. But I don't think he's ever forgotten the fact that he was a walk-on and what he did, 31 touchdown catches. I think Devontae Smith may have just broken that. Yeah. That is an incredible. Doring's got a touchdown. Doring's got a touchdown. Doring's got a touchdown. Mick Hubert. But incredible watching that, and kind of funny to hear him say Hugh Freeze turned over the offensive play calling to Philip Montgomery. He's been a head coach for Tulsa for 8 years. Now he's offensive coordinator at Auburn. Let me ask you this from a player's perspective. When fans are watching games, they don't, I think, appreciate, do they, what's going on if the offensive coordinator's up in the press box or whether he's on the field. What's going on? Are you trying to play the moment or like Steve Spurrier, 3 or 4 plays ahead?
I think you're trying to do both, but I think you always got to be cognizant of the fact that, you're trying to break it down. John Madden, what made him so incredible was it's his delivery. Anybody, even if you didn't know sports, you can understand what he was saying. Now, what Chris Doering and guys that played the game understand is I'm trying to give you the game, but I'm trying to give you these little nuances. Like people will say, well, why do they keep using motion? That pre-step motion makes it kind of decide what the defense is doing, how the defense is doing. So I think that what a Chris Doering does, he makes it so that he's painting pictures with his words, but he's trying to simplify it. Meaning, he just ran a post, but he ran a post against this defense, and then he'll say things like, "This young man was a guy who, when I saw him last spring, this is what he was working on his game with." But I think Tony Romo does a great job. Football doesn't change, only the players and the terminology. Football itself does not change, and I think the thing about it, it's like you just told me, Rob. You realize, hey man, we realize decide how many pounds of brisket is. If it's 15 pounds, 15 hours. 12 pounds. That's what you had to burn. Not saying you did, but I got to mess up enough brisket to know, hey, bro, we ain't doing something right. And we got to feed people. When it comes to football is, if Rob Browne said, I've never seen football, and I got to be the reason why you learn it, I can't give it to you based on what I know. I got to give it to you based on where you are. And that's what makes the game. Because, man, painting pictures with your words in real time, the guys that can do it the best. Listen, my favorite announcer is Gus Johnson because he yells at me. He can't wait to yell. But when Gus Johnson went back to Harvard and you saw how much he puts in, how much he gives so much credit and credence to the people behind the scenes, that's what makes it what it is. Because, when someone says, oh, man, every time I see a Tennessee running back, first thing popping in my mind, Jamal Lewis. For those of you who don't know Jamal Lewis, it's like those are the type things you can do because – and Chris, when I first got into the media business, man, Chris was already doing it. And I asked him, I interviewed him. I had this show called The Early Morning Show. It was really called, and I'm trying to figure out how I do this. And I asked Chris, man, you think I could do it? And he said yes. Meaning, if you know Chris is honest. Now, Chris said the hardest thing for him to learn is he can't cuss as much. Because, Chris said, man, at first, man, you can't be cussing on there. It's like he had to taper it. So how a person is on the air, it's not necessarily how they are in life, but Chris Doring and yourself, Rob, you guys let me know, man, we are a brotherhood, man. And the more we admire each other from afar, the better we are when it comes time. Because I used to think I wanted to do TV. I used to think I wanted to do SEC Network. I used to want to do those things. But when I go to SEC Media Days and I see, Lord Rutledge and, McElroy, and Marcus Spears, when they only got so much time. So when they say they got 5 minutes, they got somebody saying, oh, they got to get out of here. I want to be able to say, hey, Rob, man, I got you guys in 10 minutes. And I can sit down with you, Rob, and we can just talk compared to, hey, Rob, if somebody's going, he's got 8 minutes left. So you're trying to look at them and look at me. And that's the part, this is the part of media that I like. I like being in this place. But yeah, man, the commentary, that's what makes it what it is, man. Akeem Talib was the guy that's good. I like a lot of guys that can paint them because John Madden is the greatest. I don't care. Listen, love you, Nance. Love you, Gus Johnson. But John Madden said, oh, my God, that guy right there threw the pass to him and he caught it. Yeah, but it's John Madden. So, but shout out to Chris Doring, man. Finding a way to get it done, man. And like I said, a record that stood that long. Listen, the guy that broke his record won the Heisman. That's all you need. The guy that broke the record won. That's how great of a player Chris, and was a walk-on, by the way. You see the 31 touch. That's a walk-on Chris Doring.
Yeah.
Who end up. So shout out to Chris Doring, man. Still doing it, man. Still living in Gainesville. Still in that community. And I'm just happy he's a Gator, man, because he told me when I interviewed him, he went to a Florida State game and they was doing that Florida State chump. And he said, oh, no. So had he been a Seminole, I would hate Chris Doring, but he chose the right school. So I love that dude.
Well, in his insight, in like yours is, it's really good. And you're right about Gus Johnson. He thanks everybody behind the scenes. My experience just like in college and just since then a few other times, when you work for ESPN or CBS or Turner Broadcasting, what goes on behind the scenes, they usually come in Wednesday or Thursday for a Saturday game. And I remember I would work like in college toward the end. I was just started doing this so much. You're working an 18-hour Saturday probably, and you're doing whatever they need you to do. There were times I was carrying 100 feet of cable from the trailers outside the stadium down onto the field because somebody had stepped on one and broke it. Watching inside the trailer, the production truck, there's 32, 48 cameras, whatever. They're going, go to camera 6, fade to black, go to 7, go to 10, go to 9, get a sweep, get a wide, bail out. Now, commercial. And then they've got all the stuff in the can, the B-roll. If it's Florida, they may have stuff about the great wide receivers or the great tight ends, and they will show them if things are going well. If things are not going well, they've got things they'll show. They'll go, despite this 63-7 score here in the third quarter, they've won a lot of games here. They've always got something to say. But you're right about Gus Johnson. I think he is high energy. I mean, and he thanks the people along the way that help him and that every day help him. He never forgets that. That's something that you learn from the people I know in the military. Because I wish I'd have done it, but I didn't. But I would say take care of your men first as an officer. You're going to learn. My dad said when he got in the Army, he goes, "Yeah, I was a second lieutenant because they commissioned me that from 4 years of ROTC or 5 years or whatever at Auburn. But I didn't know a damn thing about being an officer until that staff sergeant or first sergeant over there at Camp Stewart showed me and taught me how to do it and why I do it and all." And that as a teammate, you came in highly recruited at Florida, but as a true freshman, you learned from the people that were there, didn't you?
Absolutely. When you first get, for those who don't know, when you go, and they're still doing it to this day, when you go D1, these big time schools, you go in the summer B portion. So the summer B of your freshman year, you ain't even a freshman yet, to get you acclimated. Problem is everybody around you looks like you. They got no hair on their faces. Everybody they look younger than 18, 17. And that's every sport. And then you get out there, they get you acclimated from where you're gonna stay to who you're gonna be your roommate to. These gonna be your classes. This gonna be your lifting schedule. And then you're doing everything for a week with all the freshmen. Then all of a sudden, this guy walks by. He's a year older than you, but he don't look a year older than you. He got real muscles. He got hair on his face. He got a deep voice, and he got there a year before you. And what happens is he's showing you what 1 year in college looks like. Forget the player, the person himself. You get out there on the field, and you hear, "We got 100. We got 18 striders. Those are 100. Those are running the full length of the field. For those of you who don't know, they call them striders. They say just stride it out. Now this is the thing. You hear the 18 because you're 18 years old. You're like, what? We got 18 striders, but then you realize the only people talking. You got two conversations going on. You got complainers. That's the freshmen, and you got the other class where they laughing and joking because they realize, hey man, this is where the real gets separated from. I mean, this is where the real and the fake, the strong.
Yeah, I agree. Hold that thought because that acclimation part is everything. You make it or you don't with the summer before your freshman year. Be right back with Ben Troupe.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4 City exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
You heard him there talking Chad House, ECS House Industries over in Cherry Valley, Arkansas. Saw Chad and his cousin Earl over yesterday. We were checking in for the Wynn barbecue contest. If you are going to be over here in the Wynn area, stop by there at the Municipal Sports Complex. 27 barbecue teams. We're hopefully going to win it. We're in it to win it. That's what MJ says. If you're not in it to win it, why get out of bed every morning? But ECS House Industries, interesting, there are 13 sweet potato farms, Ben, in America. Only 152,000 acres of sweet potatoes in the ground. And they make the better roller, the pulverizer, and I think it's the better chopper. They all make those farming implements and the machinery there in a 99,000 square foot warehouse in a town, Cherry Valley, of about 728 people. And it's amazing. I think Wayne Martin, who played in the NFL, he's from Cherry Valley. I think there's maybe two others from right next to there that have played at Arkansas and gone on and played in the NFL. But sweet potatoes, there's a farm right there in Vandale, 8,000 acres of sweet potatoes. It takes about 100 workers, and they've got to squat down and hand pick them over 8,000 acres. Sweet potatoes probably cost 85, 90 cents a piece, but it's a superfood. And there's 2 of the sweet potato farms are right here in Cross County, Arkansas. ECS House Industries, Chad House, the great folks over there, proud to be associated with them and blessed to have them as a sponsor. Ben, that summer when you come in, again, you were the biggest, the fastest, the strongest on your team from most guys, they can say it, unless one of your teammates signed. I mean, you played with Carlos Rogers, who went on to Auburn, won the Jim Thorpe Award, first-round draft pick for the Redskins. That summer, did you ever notice and look in some guys' eyes, I'm sure you did, go, man, I didn't sign up for this. What am I doing here?
Absolutely. I was one of those guys.
Yeah, I was going to say, probably.
Because what happens is, Rob, is it ain't for everybody. And sometimes it takes some things you just have to experience to know, right? And when I say we looking at each other, because you looking around and you saying to yourself, dude, that go Alex Browne, the guy that had 5 sacks against Tennessee. That go Andre Davis. That go Jabbar Gaffney. That go Taylor.
Yeah.
Jacobs. That go Rex Gross. It's like you got that go Gerard Warren and Kenyatta Walker. You know, these guys are on your team. That go there's Thaddeus Bullock, a.k.a. Titus O'Neil, WWE superstar. There he is.
Yeah.
And he looked like that. Listen, that man been walking around in his underwear showing off his body ever since I've known him. The first time I seen him out on the field in the heat. But I think what happens is too, right? Coaches don't separate the players. The atmosphere does. It's not the coaches. The atmosphere itself will separate. And look, if you don't make it, there is nothing wrong with you. That just means the atmosphere ain't for everybody. Rob, you run the people. Everybody thinks they want to do media until they say, Rob, how do you do? Rob go, no. This is my passion. This is not my day job. What? No. I still work and have a wife and children and responsibilities, but I still do sidelines. Wait a minute, but you do every day. But how do you? Because this is what I'm passionate about. Football, for the people who are passionate about it, you can't do nothing with those people. See, everybody loves football. That'll make you passionate about it. But you out there in college, there are guys who show up every day to practice, every day to lifting, every day to class, never late, always early, and they never gonna play. Those are the passionate ones. The ones who say, hey, man, I'm a teammate. Yes, I hope to get out there on Saturday, but there are no guarantees. You walk out of the University of Florida practice field. They used to call them the proving grounds. Right before you walk in, this is what you prove. Ain't no such thing, hey, coach, I'm gonna catch it in the game. No, this is the game. You're not going to Ben Hill Griffith if you can. And I think the thing about it is, listen. And this, we had a young man, he died. Austin. He was a fullback from Jacksonville. And the thing about it is, man, this is how serious people take it. And listen, may he rest in peace, man. His family, they didn't sue the school. He didn't know he's out there running. Big dude, 6 feet by 250 pounds, big stalking fullback. He didn't know that he could say, hey, coach, I need a breather. Like, I need one. And I say that to say college football, and I'm not taking away from no other sport, man, it's different, man. Because it's the only sport you got 85 dudes on scholarship. 85. Ain't but 22 be on the field. So I think the thing about it is, Rob, for me it was a culture shock. I tell people this all the time. I'm from Swainsboro. I was living in Augusta. If I go from Swainsboro to Gainesville, I probably don't make it. It took me going to a big city I had to go from where I knew nobody. When Swainsboro, I knew everybody. If I go from Swainsboro to Gainesville, I probably don't make it. But going from Augusta to Gainesville, because it's a culture shock. Not only do I got to learn how to be a good football player, be a good student, I got to adjust to life in a city that's fully functioning. I come from dirt roads, right? Yeah. I come from cast iron stoves and outhouses and wells to, hey, dude, it's people. It's that person right there is from Africa, the continent. Right, that person right there is really from, and these are the things that they don't. But I thank God for people like Gus Scott and Carlos Perez and Darryl Lee and those guys. Ronald Dowdy from Fayetteville, North Carolina, St. Louis, Missouri, Hoboken, New Jersey, Jacksonville, Florida. These boys helped me adjust because, like I said, it took me 4 years to start. See, people hear all these things, and I say, no, man. sometimes I had the talent, I had the ability, but I had to build my mentality. That's what college, you got to build a mentality. Because like I said, Jesse Palmer was supposed to be Rex Grossman. That's who was supposed to be that. But this guy from Indiana told a guy who ended up being a mega superstar on TV, hey, bro, I can throw this thing. And I'm from Indiana. So it's just so many stories that don't stop. But like I said, Steve Spurrier, the parents say, Coach, you told me my son gonna start. I said, no, I didn't. I said I want him to be a Gator. I didn't say he was gonna play. That's what you heard. And like I said, Cadillac, if he doesn't get hurt, Ronnie Browne never starts.
Yeah.
Cadillac gets hurt, Ronnie Browne comes in. Ronnie Browne's the second pick. Cadillac was the fifth. That was cheating. That team in 2004 cheating. All that talent, man. Get out of here, man. Get out.
Yeah, that was. I remember. Yeah, the 0-2 game against y'all down in the swamp. Cadillac broke his tibia, and Ronnie Browne came in. I think had 167 yards. Ronnie.
Oh my God.
Yeah, comes into the game. But in 04, the genius of Al Borges, Auburn's offensive coordinator, who by the way they brought in from Indiana, 04 through 07. They won 41 games in 4 years back in the old 11-game schedule. He was able to put in the backfield Cadillac and Ronnie Browne simultaneously, as they say in the country, at the same time. But what was really neat was Ronnie was a great baseball player out of Cartersville, Georgia, hometown of Trevor Lawrence. Great athlete. And I always see him at the Tiger tailgate at my friend Janet Bell's tailgate, which is just the door when they come off the set is just, it comes into their tent. So we'll talk to Ronnie Browne and Jason Campbell, Coach Tuberville, Senator Tuberville. I saw him at the LSU game. And you think about multi-sport athletes. And again, a big guy like you, Frank Thomas, who's 6'5", 250, tight end. And, at the time, Coach Dye said, look, every tight end we've had that's played 4 years has gone on to the NFL. I think you can get there. He goes, let me come watch you play baseball.
Cooper Wallace. I played with Cooper Wallace with the Titans.
Yeah.
Auburn. Yeah.
Yeah. He went to Christ Presbyterian Academy, CPA, up in Nashville. And thinking about this, Yancy Porter's going to be on with us in just a second from Rebel Yell Hotline. Development of players and the tight end position. Everybody says we're going to start using the tight end. Just explain, put in the vernacular for just Joe Sixpack, who's listening in Coldwater, Mississippi, going, I don't really understand what the tight end does. Should he have 1,000 yards every year? I don't even know if the SEC's ever produced one, but explain that so that even Jethro Bodine would understand it.
The tight end position does everything on the offense but throw the football. It's the only position to where you can put him in the backfield, you can put him in motion, you can put him in the slot, you can put his hand on the ground. He can be a front line blocker. You can run you can literally run your run game and your passing game through them. The thing of good tight ends can do it all. They don't now, mind you, I said can do it all, not excel at all. They can do it all. Stephen Nash said the best. A tight end is this. A tight end is a renaissance man. He's a jack of many trades. He's a master of none. But if you need it done, a tight end can do it. You don't believe me? Look at the way they use tight ends now. Now, don't compare your tight end to the greatest tight ends to ever play. Don't compare him to Travis Kelce and George Kittle, Darren Waller, and Kyle Pitts. No. Get you a tight end that wants to block. Get you a tight end that understands his role in the passing game. Get you a tight end that can direct traffic as far as like getting guys lined up, and get you a tight end that loves the game. You good. Yeah. That's because I think what happens is now, Rob, is I can't stand up, man. That kid, man, he tall and athletic, man. He's Darren Waller. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's like tight ends to me used to be a position they wore 80 numbers and they stood right next to the offensive tackles. Now, listen, flex them out. Utilize them. Because number one, they're taller and usually fast, if not faster than linebackers. They're bigger than safeties, and cornerbacks don't want to tackle them. That sounds like a match made in heaven because Gronk right now is the greatest tight end to ever play, even though Travis Kelce is right there on his heel. Gronk was not the most athletic tight end. He just understood his role and he embraced it. And you couldn't stop him.
I like what you just said about Rob Gronkowski. He played at Arizona, I believe. Almost 9,000 yards receiving. But Travis Kelce, yeah, you're right. That guy, of course, he had a brother on the other side of the field, so that was funny. Yancy Porter's checking in with us now. down in Oxford, Rebel Yell Hotline, and we're talking about tight ends. And by the way, I had Franz Beard on the Rebel Yell Hotline, got him hooked up to be a guest with Yancy a year ago, and I'm listening to Franz talk about a tight end, Michael Trigg from Tampa. He goes, I watched that kid play basketball in high school one time. He put up 42 points, a little string music in Plant City in Tampa, Florida, as Joe Dean would say. Yancy, is there any string music with Chris Beard down there in Oxford?
Yeah, Beard's on fire. There's no doubt about it. Everybody's really excited about what's going on with Beard.
Well, what's funny is you're starting to see this seismic shift. Ben Troupe, of course, played football at Florida, played in the NFL, and he does a show, ESPN Coastal, down in Savannah. He's on with us a lot, and I don't know if you've been on with Ben or not, but we're talking about the tight end position. Yeah. Evan Ingram, with the hybrid tight end. Remember Evan Ingram, Ben?
Evan Ingram. I mean, people always look when I think about SEC tight ends. The school that put out the most, right, was Arkansas. They was putting at one point, Hunter Henry out. They were putting them out. Evan Ingram was uncoverable. You could not. And I love Evan Ingram because he plays tight end. I hate him because he plays for the Jaguars and we can't deal with him with the Titans because, good Lord, but he's a Georgia boy. Powder Springs, Ole Miss. That's the reason why Hugh Freeze. That's back in them glory years when you getting guys like Evan Ingram to come to town. Yeah,
Yancy. Hey, look, there's a lot going on right now. We got baseball season still alive. Ole Miss not there. Let's get an update on a couple of things. One, what's Ole Miss doing with grad transfers? I know the portal window's closed, but Lane Kiffin doesn't sleep. I don't think he does. That staff, they're looking to bring in better players. Let's kind of talk some Ole Miss football, and then I want to hear what's going on with Chris Beard in recruiting, because you're seeing Ole Miss involved in a lot of the top players. It's not an accident. Yancy, you there?
I am. I lost you for a second.
Okay,
the portal window has closed as far as players getting in it that are non-grad students, but the grad students are still getting it. Ole Miss just got a player from FAU just 2 days ago. I believe that was their 24th player that got in the portal. So in this last window alone, Ole Miss has gotten 4 defensive linemen, 4 defensive backs, and a wide receiver just in the last window alone.
They signed how many in the last window?
9 players, 4 defensive linemen, 4 defensive backs, and a wide receiver just in this last window alone.
Yeah. Well, they last year had the second or third best portal class in the country. And it's changing, Ben. I mean, you talk about a rebuild. You can go out there in the portal. Again, it's like running over to Costco or Walmart's, get what you need. But I'm curious, how long does it take a guy? Let's say he's transferred. This is his 3rd school. What is that? Does that concern you if you're a player about a guy that's been to 2 other schools?
No, it doesn't concern me. I mean, I'm like a coach, man. I'm gonna give a guy a clean slate. People want to talk so much about me. The transfer portal works. I mean, people want to talk about, that 2019 LSU team. Joe Burrow was a transfer. Right? He did not start off. But that's the problem, though, right? We compare it to the greatest transfers of all time. No. I want. It does for anybody that got something to say about players going to 2 or 3 different schools. How many schools these coaches been to? They switch up more than anybody, and no one says, and they getting paid to do it. So sometimes it just doesn't work. But I will say this: if you are a quarterback, you can do the carousel. You can do the college carousel. JT Daniels. I don't know if he had another school right now, but he's seen the college landscape from California to Georgia to West Virginia. And I'm not mad at the young man. But you're gonna have to find a landing spot. And I do know that transfers are always the most dangerous for the players that are currently on the roster, especially those freshmen, because they've been acclimated to college already. They just got to find a good landing spot. Yeah.
Yancy, talking about that, give us your thoughts. I mean, media days coming up July 17th to the 20th. It's the summertime, it's a lot more laid back. It's not a little, it's a lot more. But the coaches don't ever stop game planning and scheming. I want to talk about staff changes, new coaches that Ole Miss brought in. I know they lost some, like Jake Thornton went to Auburn, but everybody has coaches coming and going every year. But the staff that Lane Kiffin, he's got connections. He knows where the good coaches are, doesn't he?
That's really one of his strengths to me. Everybody talks about his play calling, but his ability to, like Nick Saban, to keep turning these coaches in and out. I think there's 10 on-field assistants on the team.
Yeah.
I think the minimum he's had in turnover is 6 each year. So he's only retaining 4 per year. And just like Saban, but he just continues. And I don't know how. I guess people look at him as a resume builder, just like they do Nick Saban. He's able to keep getting, a lot of great coaches each and every year. And obviously the biggest addition this year is Pete Golden from Alabama.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. See if you can get your volume. It's kind of going in and out. We're going to take a quick break, Yancy, and talk more about this, about Pete Golden coming over. Ben, he'd been at Alabama the last 4 years. This is going to be an interesting one. We've got Ben Troupe, ESPN Coastal, Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, and Rob Browne here at the Cherry Farm. Yeah, be right back. Okay, Rob Browne back here with you with Yancy Porter. Ben Troupe may have bounced off of us. Hopefully he'll come back here. Some weird stuff going on in the air right now, maybe because it's summertime. In the fall, we always hear if you have internet problems with technology, it's sunspots. Or in the early days of the computer, Yancy, remember what it was? It's a syntax error. The IT guy comes out there with a green shirt, and thick glasses and goes, "Oh, it's a syntax error." That's what it is. But Yancy,
No.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we were just following up a little bit about the coaching changes and the portals and all that. And that's really what Lane's strength is. And that's why it was such a good fit for Ole Miss, besides just him as a coach. I think his NFL experience of dealing with free agency, and now you got the NIL and your budgets and everything else. That's why Lane has been such a good fit at Ole Miss right now.
Well, the one thing about Lane Kiffin, I think he's a great play caller. He's also great at developing quarterbacks. Let's talk about that quarterback room. We know Walker Howard's there, Jackson Dart, but there's some other guys we're not really talking about that are probably going to play a role this year. In the SEC college football period, it's a physical game. Like Ben Troupe says, the NFL is a collision league. The NFL light, I guess you could say the SEC, because so many of these guys are going to go play in the NFL. You got to have depth in that room.
Yeah, you do. I mean, injuries are part of the game, and especially in the SEC, and that's the reason why they paid so much money for a backup quarterback that looks like it's going to be a backup quarterback there in Sanders that transferred over from Oklahoma State. Walker Howard, from LSU. I think Ole Miss is sitting pretty good right now in the quarterback room.
How good is Jackson Dart? You said it a couple of years ago. He's more the gunslinger mentality that Lane Kiffin craves in a quarterback.
Yeah.
And, you had Luke Altmaier there. And by the way, where did he transfer? Indiana?
Illinois. And they're expecting they are really expecting a lot from Luke Altmaier. He had a big time spring camp over there. I'm proud of him.
Yeah. Well, he was a kid from Starkville. I know Ole Miss identified him early, in high school. But Jackson Dart, last year's schedule with Ole Miss, and if I'm Ole Miss, I'm going, please spread these big games out during the season, because last year Ole Miss got off to a 6-1 or 7-0 start, but the back end of the schedule was brutal. And then couple that with the fact of Auburn's interest in Kiffin, and whether he had interest or not, who knows, but that's a distraction. I don't give a damn what anybody tells you when your coach is being pursued, and if he's involved in it and all, that is a distraction. Lane Kiffin, if he's all in, dialed in, like a sniper, he's a hell of a coach.
Yeah, he's a good coach, and
but you can only, your roster is about 70% of coaching, and I really, I was a little bit down the last time we spoke about the transfer portal and players leaving Ole Miss. If you remember, they had 3 of their top 4 corners leave. What they've done in this last window has elevated my ceiling for this year's team for Ole Miss. I was a 7 and 8 type ceiling type guy before, and now I've kind of raised that to 8 to 9 from what he's done in this last portal.
All right, so 8 to 9. That's have like you say, a floor of the players that you're bringing in. Where does in positions that you get, and with the portal, there may be guys available out there, but if they're not, you don't really gain anything. Who out there, or maybe you can't say this on the air, but give me the positions on offense and defense where Ole Miss needs help immediately.
To still get some help from the portals that are still available, I would say linebacker. I think they've
helped themselves out tremendously there at wide receiver with the 2 additions, the Louisiana Tech and UTSA transfers. I think defensive line and defensive back, they've really helped themselves a lot. But I think linebackers where I'm still focused on, where they still need a little help.
Well, you think about this. Everybody out there is recruiting in the portal now. And again, whether you like it or not, like Ben said, coaches come and go. Players are going to do it. Coaches, obviously, they're older and they do move around and all. But you think about offensive coordinator, defensive coordinators, head coaches really are CEOs at this level. Very few of them are involved in the play calling, but they're involved Monday through Friday in a lot more than people want to give them credit for. Pete Golding, great recruiter. That's what he's known for. His defenses at Alabama, is it fair to say, well, when you got an offense that's averaging over about 45 points a game over the last 4 years, it's hard to have a lockdown, shutdown, airtight defense, isn't it? I don't care who you are. I don't care how much talent you have. I don't see how you do it.
Yeah, especially if you're a defense coordinator under Lane Kiffin, where he'll go for it on his own 5-yard line.
Lane,
that is crazy.
Lane can put his defense in some precarious situations, and that's just part of it. As a defensive coordinator under Lane Kiffin, you're going to be put in some bad situations. You know that your defense is not going to get a whole lot of time to rest, right? I believe his average drive since he's been at Ole Miss are 2 minutes and 8 seconds. So, it's not set up well for the defensive coordinators, but, that's just a challenge you have as a coordinator is, how can we get through being put in some bad spots? But Pete Golding is definitely already putting his thumb down here at Ole Miss. They're off to a tremendous start in the 2024 class in recruiting, as you talked about. They have 3 of the top 4 defensive linemen already committed out of Mississippi. They've got 7 of the top 12 prospects in Mississippi already locked down, and this is a unusual year for the state of Mississippi. There's depth, there's talent. Usually you're looking at 8 blue chip type recruits in Mississippi, and then 4 or 5 that are really solid. This year, you're looking at 16, 17 blue chip prospects out of Mississippi with another 10 solid recruits. So it was perfect timing for Ole Miss to come in and get somebody that is a big time recruiter and not rely so heavily on the portal like we've seen these first few years under Lane Kiffin. You would like to start getting some roster stability where you're not having to pick up 25 portals and losing 35 portals. And so, he's brought stability as far as roster for the future. Ole Miss fans are excited to get out of that 3-man front that they've been running for 3 years now under Lane Kiffin and get to a normal 4-down lineman alignment and not having, a 5-set defensive front in that 3-2-6 where you're just inviting people to run the ball 5, 6, 7 yards a clip, adding people to the box, getting bigger. So the Ole Miss fans are really excited about the direction that Golden is taking this team.
Well, anytime you bring in a new coach, they're going to bring in new ideas, new energy, and it's normal. I mean, 4 years on the staff with Nick Saban, he learned a lot about preparation, recruiting, that what they call the process. I want to ask you now on the offense. Lane Kiffin, again, not that many head coaches are as involved as he is directly in play calling, and just he's so hands-on with coaching. Of course, he grew up with a father, Monty Kiffin. That's all he really knows. That's been his whole life. And Charlie Weiss Jr. as offensive coordinator, give me your grade on him. What you think on a B, C, D, F, whatever it is.
Wow, that's a great question. I'll give him his first year
B minus, and you might say, well, Yancy, they were third or second in the country in rushing and averaged over 40 points a game. But I feel like that they were more explosive with the old offensive coordinator that obviously left over there, Jeff Levy, to Oklahoma. But I think Charlie is really settled in now. I think they've gotten more explosive at receiver this all season with the additions they added there at wide receiver. The UTSA wide receiver. I believe he leads D1 returnees in receptions, yardage, and TDs. Obviously, the Louisiana Tech transfer there, and Trey Harris is an outstanding wide receiver. So I look for Ole Miss to be a lot more explosive in the passing game this year where they're not so relying on that run game. I think that's going to make Judkins fresher throughout the year. He's not going to have to carry the ball 30 times a game like he did last year. I really like the direction that this offense is going. I think the offense is going to be more explosive this year. All questions still remain is how good is this defense going to be?
Well, last year, early preseason, really when no one really knew, you talked about Quinshon Judkins out of Park Crossing right there next to Montgomery. This is a guy you said when the book is written, Nick Saban, Auburn football history, either one of them, they're going to look back as one of the 5 players. Why didn't we go get this kid? And doesn't mean that he would have come there, but Ole Miss was, I believe, the first school to offer. And that goes a long way in recruiting. If you did have to go 30 or 35 carries a game for a while in a stretch, he's the kind of kid that can do it, isn't he?
He is. Luckily for Ole Miss, you got
Bentley back this year. He broke his hand in the second game of the year. He missed the next 9 games, which obviously put a lot of onus on Evans and Judkins, but he's really looked great this spring. And then they're really excited about the freshman top 100 recruit they signed out of Texas, Ricario. He's, from what I'm hearing, he is having a fantastic summer right now, conditioning. Looks really good out there. So that's going to give him a 3-headed monster. That's going to allow Judkins again to be fresher. If you remember the end of that Alabama game when Judkins carried it three times for 72 yards to get inside Alabama's 12-yard line there. Evans had gotten a concussion earlier in that game in the second quarter, and they didn't have another running back, and they just basically used Judkins as a decoy on those next 4 plays. He didn't get a snap because he couldn't breathe. And so they've got to have Judkins where he is fresh. We saw what happened. He missed the LSU game there. Judkins got worn out in the second half. Ole Miss faded. Evans, obviously got a concussion again at the Alabama game. Judkins couldn't, Ole Miss couldn't finish that last drive to win that game. So the games where Judkins was really wore out there, they did not have much success. So it's going to be big, allowing him to have some more legs back there to help him stay fresh.
Yeah. All right. Now switch gears. SEC spring meetings, lots of talk. I know 1-7, 3-6 on the schedule. What are you in favor of? What do you think is best for Ole Miss, which is most important to you?
Well, there's a lot of debate about that. Most schools say 8 games is best for their program because it allows you to win more games. I mean, you stay fresher. It's one extra game that you got to go through in SEC for 9. But look, I think from a fan's perspective, and with the SEC, with the NCAA expanding to 12-game playoff format, I think 9 games is the way to go. I really do. The fans just don't want to sit through 3 games and, 100-degree weather, watching slippery rock play. It just is the money that these fans are putting out for CGAs and hotel rooms and food and everything else. You just don't want to spend all that money to see those type of games. I thought the 2020 season during COVID was a 10-game SEC schedule was the best schedule that I've seen for all the teams. I mean, it was excitement every single weekend. I know this sounds crazy, but I would like to go to a 10-game schedule and play 2 non-conference games. You would have a regional non-conference game that you play like Ole Miss for, you play like Memphis, for example, a team that is local that you got a lot of tradition with, and then maybe have a breather for a homecoming or something. But I know they're not going to go to a 10-game schedule, but I think that the fans certainly deserve it. But 9 games minimum. You got 12 games, 12 teams now in the playoffs. I see no reason why the SEC should be playing an 8-game SEC schedule and then have 4 games that are basically, just a buy-in game to get wins.
Well, they call them rental wins or whatever, but yeah, it really works out to where if you play a 1-7 or a 3-6, you're going to play everybody in the league at least 2 times over a 4-year cycle. You'll have your one permanent team that you play every year. I thought briefly last week the 1-7 would be great, but then I'm like, no way. You can't give up. What makes college football so special are those traditional rivalries. I mean, How do you think Georgia felt during the Spurrier era? They were 1-11 against the Gators, and not so great against Ron Zook, the Georgia-Florida series. And then Urban Meyer. I think in that 12, 15, 19 game cycle, they were 2-17 or 3-16 against Florida. But they didn't feel like that wasn't a rivalry. But you don't want to give those games up. And I'm with you. 3-6 is what we need to stick with. And I think the 3-6, well, that would be new for us. But, yeah, the 2020 season was so weird with the crowd capacities and all. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun having every weekend a conference game. Pac-12 already does it. Big 10 already does it. Big 12 does it. The ACC likes to do something about like what the SEC does. But you're right. 9 games. I mean, is too much ever enough of SEC football?
No, it's not. And like you said, you got to keep at least 3, traditional games each school. I can't imagine. Say hypothetically next year was the year they did it, and you don't have Alabama and Auburn on the schedule for Ole Miss. And goodness gracious, if you didn't have LSU on top of that and Arkansas on the schedule, so it's just that's why I really prefer the 10-game schedule, to be honest. I would like for them to see them keep 4 traditional games, but three at the minimum. I think it's healthier for the fans. It's healthier for the local
Yancy,
economy.
let's take a break. Let's take a quick break. Going to come back because I got a couple more questions for you. Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, right back after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
I'm back with Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline down in Oxford, Mississippi. Ben had to drop off with this. This is the life of even people like you and Ben. We've all got kids. He's got 3 young ones, and he said we had a kid crisis there at the house, and so he goes, I'll try to join y'all back if I can. So I know that feeling.
I do too. They're good times. I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
they are
trade it
great
for anything.
times. I never complain about it. Yancy, we're going to be joined in just a second here, checking in with Tim Seeger up there, Two-Tie Timmy up in Hardy on the Spring River, kind of checking out during the summer, as people are going on. So hang with us here. We'll get him on here for a couple of minutes. I like to we see him up on the Spring River. We go up to Hardy, and he's got people from all 50 states have got pictures of him in foreign countries and all. And it's kind of like Larry Bud Melman on the old Letterman show down at the New York City Port Authority, welcoming visitors. I don't know if he's going to say, how have you enjoyed Hardy? Have you enjoyed the Spring River? Would you care for a hot towel? Larry, remember back when late night TV was funny, Yancy?
Yeah. Letterman. Who can forget?
Yeah. I mean,
Johnny Carson.
Yeah. How about Brother Theodore on the Letterman show? You remember that guy?
Yeah, I remember him well.
Could you imagine Brother Theodore on this show? Brother Theodore, what do you think about going from 8 games to 9 games in the SEC? You asking me, David? You asking me a question about the schedule? You asking me something I know nothing about? I don't know anything about the duality of man. I mean, God, he was one of the funniest human beings in the history of human beings. See if we can check in real quick with Tim. Tim, are you up there on the river right now?
I am.
Yeah,
Can you hear
real
me?
quick. Yeah, just a couple of minutes here. We can't see you today, but summertime is almost officially, it starts. We know that with Memorial Day weekend. You're up there at the intersection of Highway 63 and 167 on the Spring River in Hardy, kind of like Larry Bud Melman welcoming people to Hardy in the Spring River in the Ozarks. Would you care for a hot towel? Where are you meeting people from? Are people getting back out?
Howdy.
Yeah, how you doing?
Had the camera on. Hey, all is well here in the beautiful Spring River. How y'all doing?
Well, Timmy, I love this up there. What you got people come from all. You said you've got people from every state in America have pictures with you. Multiple people in a lot of states. Tell us about it.
Well, for some reason they like what I do, and they take a lot of pictures, and all is well. And they just enjoy it. I can't really explain it why they enjoy it, because I don't play an instrument or anything, but many people do.
Well,
And,
Tim, where have you met?
Can you
Let me
show
ask
the
you
flag?
something. Yeah,
Bring it to the
and we
flag.
saw it. We can see the Hardy sign. Have you met anybody that's come from Australia or Papua New Guinea or from Zimbabwe? What's the weirdest country you've ever met
The
anybody
only
coming
two
through Hardy?
Germany, Canada. Does Canada count? Yeah.
Oh yeah, Canada
Germany
can.
and
Semi.
Canada are the two places
Okay.
that are
Hey
foreign
Timmy.
that I'm
Well,
aware of. Hey,
let me ask
you know what
this.
I heard?
What's that?
I heard Nick Saban was coming down here to Arkansas to coach the Hogs.
Oh, really?
We're going, yeah. We're going to give him $1,000 a month and all the hogs he can eat.
Well, that'll be fun. Tim, I got.
But yeah, all is
Tim, I got
well.
one
It's
more.
love. It's beautiful. Let me see if I can get the pictures up there or the flags. See the flags on the hill? Kind of.
Oh, you got all 50 states, don't you?
Yeah, all 50
I love
states. You have to feel that way with it.
All 50 states. I love it. Well,
Yeah,
Tim,
yeah, that's good.
my favorite thing about you is waving the flag. But look, we'll get you back on here tomorrow. But look, hey, what would you say to anybody that's staying at home and staying locked up and is afraid to get out? Shouldn't they be out traveling?
I can't explain it.
I know. Tim, look, we'll check back in with you. We'll check back in with you tomorrow. Be good. That is Larry Bud Melman up there at the New York City Port Authority, up Hardy, Arkansas, Highway 167 and 63 right there. Would you care for a hot towel? Dave, these people come to New York City with full of dreams and hopes for a future before their hopes and dreams are destroyed. Well, thank you so much there, Larry Bud Melman. You remember, Ken, we were talking about when late night TV was funny. I've got Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline in Oxford, Mississippi on with us right now. We need that. But Yancy, Ken Capps is a member of the Football Writers Association of America. And you've got a really cool story. You're up in Evanston, Illinois, Northwestern right now. Let's talk about what you're up there for. Yancy, this is a really cool story.
Well, first of all, I just hope that Tim's got him an ice chest out there, and he's got a variety of beverages to keep him hydrated there on that highway. Jeez, I don't want.
Well, he ran for mayor of Hardy, Arkansas, and free weed for everybody. It was a great campaign.
I don't know, man. Us Texans, I live in Dallas. It's Arkansas is a tough place for us to travel. If we have Texas license plates, we got to be very careful in that state because we're liable to get pulled over for just about anything.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Bottom line, I love the Nick Saban coming to coach at Arkansas for $1,000 a month. That would be a great story.
Yeah, but Rob, you're talking about getting out traveling. This is a true story. And it was on Facebook the other day. Some Alabama fan a few weeks ago ran in to Nick Saban in Italy, and took a picture with him on the streets of Italy. Can you only imagine? You're Nick Saban trying to be on vacation, probably Miss Terry there with him. And all of a sudden, somebody's yelling at you, Coach Saban, Coach Saban. You're like, oh man, can I get away with these people just for a few days? But he was gracious. He was very gracious. He took a picture with the young lady and everything. But I just thought, poor Coach Saban, man, he can't go anywhere in the world without getting an Alabama fan to holler at him and want to take a picture with him.
Yeah,
Do not fool yourself, Ken. There's a big time offensive lineman out there in Italy. He was joking.
I'd heard. Look, I remarried, so my oldest daughter Mallory was a freshman at Alabama, and she was at the Catholic Church there in Tuscaloosa. And during Mass in the Catholic Church, they go offer each other the sign of peace, and she turned around. And Nick Saban was right there behind her. And Mallory said he looked at her and she looked at him and she goes, "That's okay, sir. People don't look at me like that all the time." And he just kind of laughed about it. But I mean, he's an interesting guy, to say the least. But going to Italy, did you know there's also a Crimson Tide souvenir store in Jerusalem?
That doesn't surprise me a bit.
Not at all. I mean, I'm not kidding you. And it's a thriving business. So yeah.
Again, doesn't surprise me a bit. Bama's a global brand. So I just thought that was so funny when I saw that picture on Facebook. I thought, poor Nick, he can't even go to Italy. We have an Italy, Texas too. That's not too far from Dallas, but this was actually the Italy, as in Rome. And but anyway, so thanks for asking, Rob. I'm so glad I got to be on the show, and I'm looking forward to getting back into college football and to getting back on the show here over the summer when the Big 12 media days and SEC media days start. But I'm up here at Northwestern because I got my master's degree in journalism from Northwestern University here. I'm actually at the Medill School of Journalism right now, and I found a quiet hallway that had all the facilities I needed to come up here and do the show. So 40 years ago this month, I received my master's degree in journalism from Medill. And I did graduate. However, I did not get a chance to walk in graduation, come across the stage and all that, because I got this fantastic offer to go report overseas, speaking of overseas, on Pope John Paul II's trip to Poland, where he went over there. He's a native of Poland. Yeah. And he went over there and basically, Poland was under martial law. And basically, when he went over there, he just opened up the gates for democracy to come in there. And you remember Lech Wałęsa, that. Oh, yeah. President.
Gdansk, the shipyards in Gdansk. Absolutely.
I'm proud of you. That's good. Yeah. So anyway, I missed all the festivities. And it's been really, I just wanted to bring closure to this. I've really missed it. And I come up here, I brought my son Austin up here when he was little, and now I bring my daughter Caroline up here every year for a Northwestern game. And I always bring them in November when it's nice and cold, because I want them to see real Big Ten football, when it's sleeting, when it's just really cold, because down in Texas, it never does that in November. So anyway, I wrote to the dean in January and explained my whole situation and asked him, humbly, if I could come up here and walk at graduation, which is going to be Sunday. And he was so nice, Rob, and he said yes. So I've got my purple gown and my hat and my mortarboard back at the hotel. And by golly, I'm going to be crossing that stage on Sunday, 40 years almost to the day.
That is a cool story, Yancy. A lot of people today want to say that they are sports journalists or what have you. Ken, getting a master's from Northwestern, hell of a writer and a graduate from the University of Texas. And I tell you one thing, man. I think that's a cool story. You're speaking of Texas. No, Yancy, are you a country music fan?
Well, if the music was made before 1985, yes. If it's
let me see if either one.
Sarah.
Yeah. Well, let me see if either one of y'all are familiar with this guy's voice.
Here's a song I wrote on a plane between Dallas and Austin.
Johnny Cash.
Waylon Jennings.
Going to El Paso. Whoops. Now, this is what gave us the idea to come down here. This is a song about a guy that Probably did as much for our kind of music as anybody.
Bob Wills is still the king.
Yeah, that's
Bob
right.
Wills is still the king. Waylon Jennings. No, that is country. And Yancy, when you
like
get
Johnny
10
Cash at the
caps
very
on here
beginning.
with Bo Carter, these Texas writers, not only are they great writers, they're great storytellers. We had Billy Shershot on, and when Coach Mike Leach passed away back in December, we had one of the coolest shows we've ever had was Ken and Bo and Billy Shershot telling some incredible Mike Leach stories about college football. But Yancy, would you say that as a sports writer, as a journalist, now so many people transition from the printed part to the electronic part, being able to tell the story and put it in the vernacular for people is the key versus just being able to, give you numbers?
No question about it. But first, a little bit about Texas. I was saying before 1985 because that's when country music was in Texas. Once it transferred over there to Nashville, the Garth Brooks era, about 85, 86, 87, that's when I quit listening to country music. It's not for me, but I love Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash, Willie, all those old characters. But yes, as far as the transition for journalists going from print, as you said, a digital format, it transforms, but everybody has to adapt. I was right in the middle of it. When I got into it in the 90s, we were still in print. Heck, we were doing a newspaper, a weekly newspaper there at the Ole Miss Spirit back then. Then it went to a magazine format when we got with, at that time, it was called The Insiders, which transformed to Scout.com. And then, obviously, it later transformed completely to digital. So it's just, it's kind of like coaches in the NIL and the transfer portals. You just got to adapt with the times.
Yeah, and Yancy, if you get your volume, we can hear you better. I don't know if you've got your Bluetooth or what have you, but I like what you just said, and I'm a classic country junkie. Most of the new stuff, I could scratch my fingernails on the chalkboard and sound better than it. That's just me. But Ken, I want to hear. That's a pretty cool room that you're in, but you were there in 1982 when something significant happened at Northwestern with their football team. I got to hear this story. Yancy, this is so cool.
This is so good. And especially, Rob, me and you talked last year about there was this kind of fad where whenever anybody won a game last year, they tore down the goalposts and took them down and ran onto the field and everything, to the point where all the different conferences started fining the schools, like $50,000 for the first offense, $100,000 for the second offense, on for rushing the field and tearing down these goalposts. Well, on September the 25th, 1982, Dyke Stadium, Evanston, Illinois, Coach Dennis Green was the coach at Northwestern. He was the first African-American coach in the Big Ten. He and Northwestern were in the middle of a 34-game losing streak, which is still the longest losing streak in the history of college football. Okay, I had just started here at Northwestern, and I had
Ken, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. And I need to answer this question from a listener about the Alabama store in Jerusalem from Malka Margolis. Where in Jerusalem? We'll answer it right after this question. let me answer this question real quick for Malka Margolis. Where in Jerusalem? That's where that's where my father was born. It's in Old Jerusalem. And Conan O'Brien found it when he was over there doing his show one time. He said, not even Conan O'Brien could escape the far-reaching tentacles of the Alabama Crimson Tide. But the Alabama store is located in Old Jerusalem in the historic district. So now that would be cool if I could get the proprietor of that store on a StreamYard link on the show.
Yes.
That would be pretty damn fun. And we're going to get our producers, our crack producers, ladies and gentlemen, Paul Schaefer in the band. maybe Yancy can do it, but let's get back to this story, Ken, because I want to hear this. And this is what we love having you on here. Great writer, incredible storyteller.
Well, and I was just going to say this, what Yancy was talking about, and that's what Medill is known for. You may transition from print to digital to electronic to TV to everything else, but you still have to know how to write. And, that writing is still the basis of everything. And this place is what taught me how to write. And I still just think that's the most important thing that I do in my job is write. Okay, but back to the story. And by the way, Malka's a Northwestern grad, so go Cats, Malka.
I love it.
So anyway, September 25th, 1982, Northwestern University is playing Northern Illinois. They've lost 34 games in a row. Northwestern, they're the Wildcats. People were referring to them as the Mild Cats.
Yep.
Okay, the Mild Cats. Well, Dennis Green's the coach that day, and I had gotten some freelance radio gigs. And I always had my tape recorder with me. A tape recorder. Does anybody know what that is?
Oh yeah. I love them.
On that hallowed day, Northwestern beats Northern Illinois 31-6 and breaks their 34-game losing streak. The entire stadium goes wild, which is something that Northwestern fans don't do very often, but they went wild. They tore down one of the goalposts and marched it to the president's house, the president of NU. And of course, he got a big bang out of it. Nobody called the police. Nobody got upset about it. He got a big bang out of it. And then Northwestern sits right by Lake Michigan. They took the goalpost and threw it in the lake.
Holy cow.
And the lake is so deep, even though it's right by land. The next day, they had to get scuba divers to go out there and jump in the water to get the goalpost out of the damn lake. And so all that weekend, I was just doing stories, and I went and interviewed Coach Green and some of the other players. And all that week, for a poor graduate student that weekend, I was just churning out 30-second radio spots for AP Radio, Mutual Radio, CBS Radio. And man, I still remember that day. It was such a cool day.
I mean, Yancy, isn't that what we're supposed to hear from sports writers is the story is bigger than just them, isn't it? I love what Ken just said. That's what getting a master's in journalism from Northwestern does for you, and living in Texas does for you as well.
Yeah, Northwestern has got arguably, the top reputation for journalism school. I've known several people that have gone up there to get their degrees as well, but I like the story about throwing it in the lake. Just get that juju and that voodoo off of the program. So I think I would have done the same thing after 34-game losing streak.
Well, the Big Ten, by the way, did not fine the Wildcats $10,000 or $50,000 for throwing the goalpost in the lake either. They let them go ahead and get by with it. And by the way, Northwestern went on to win 2 other games that season. They beat Minnesota at home here in Evanston, and then they upset Michigan State on the road. So the Cats won 3 games, and even though they only won 3 games, Dennis Green was named the coach of the year for the Big Ten. So there was a lot going on at Northwestern University in 1982.
No, it was a hell of a story.
Did any of those three coaches that got defeated get fired that year?
I guarantee you they did.
I need to look that up. That's a good question.
They used to call that.
Hey, here's an interesting observation. Maury Gaston down in Birmingham, Pope John Paul II, now St. John Paul II, Margaret Thatcher, and Ronald Reagan were each providentially in place simultaneously at the same time, JW. And the result was the fall of the Berlin Wall and collared the Soviet regime, the breakdown of the USSR. Take any one of those three out, and I don't believe it would have happened. That's a great observation, Maury Gaston and Dave Tompkins, because Dave, who's a regular guest on our show, former chief marketing officer at Churchill Downs, West Point graduate from Mountain Brook, lifelong Alabama fan as well. And he was in maybe Kaiserslautern and in Germany, his deployment, putting Pershing missiles and all during the Cold War. I remember traveling in Europe in 86 and 87 and 89 in the summers. And it was a different world we lived in. But that's an incredible story, Ken. Also met a Catholic priest, Father Herbert, at St. Michael's Catholic Church in Auburn in the fall of 2017. And we were talking, and he was from Poland, of course, and he grew up over there. And I said, how old are you? And he said, 31. And I immediately said, in 1986, over 1 million Poles locked arms around the border of Poland, all the way around in prayer for peace and an end to communism and the Cold War. And he goes, and yes, I was born 31 years later. And I'm like, wow, that stuff's real. Yancy, I met Ken at Media Days last week. He was standing there talking to Tim Tebow. And I was like, wow, here's a journalist, a sports writer. And he said, Tim, I'm really impressed with you, but also I admire you stand up for your faith and your Christian faith. And Ken, never is Yancy on this show that he doesn't sign off by saying, have a blessed day. I mean, that's the kind of atmosphere, that's the kind of culture we created on this show. And Timmy Tutai from up in Hardy just texted and said, I don't know what it is about me. I said, Tim, you waved the flag. You're positive in, positive out. And again, the great storytellers. Ken, you ought to listen to Rebel Yell Hotline Monday nights at 6 p.m. on WHBQ in Memphis. Him and Chuck Rounsville and Gary Darby and Harry Harrison. Doesn't matter what time of the year, and they need more time. But when you've got people that are sincerely vested in what they do, and this story about Northwestern, I'd forgotten because locally Memphis went 0-11, Memphis State at the time. And Yancy, if you were alive, but Bob Burks was the afternoon sports anchor on Channel 5 in Memphis. And he was kind of a sarcastic guy from Cincinnati. And I'll never forget, there were not enough people at the game to take down the goalposts. and Bob Burks said this during the show. He goes, this was just handed to me. Memphis State officials have just agreed to accept a bid to the toilet bowl in Flushing Meadow, New York. He was fired right after he finished his broadcast on the news.
I bet.
But it always helps to have the local media, pull for you. But you think about that story, Dennis Green, and then Gary Barnett comes in there.
Right.
Pat Fitzgerald. Have you met Pat Fitzgerald?
I certainly have. I
would love to get him on the show. You talk about a guy that just positive in, positive out. Linebacker at Northwestern. And that new football facility, Yancy, that they have that looks out over Lake Michigan, you've toured that, Ken. They ain't playing around at Northwestern.
Well, you know what they call it? They call it the Fitz-Carlton,
I like that.
Well, I mean, it's pretty posh,
Yeah, I love it.
Well, and here's the other thing about that stadium. When I first got here, Northwestern, it's a private university and, you think it's pretty ritzy. When I first walked in, it used to be called Dyke Stadium. I'm sorry, I don't know who Mr. Dyke was, but when I went to the first time I went into the men's room at Dyke Stadium, they had chicken wire on the windows of the men's room. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is Northwestern University, you know, and they got chicken wire. I mean, this isn't Arkansas. And, but trust me, you know, the Ryan family, it's called Ryan Field now. The Ryan family has really, really made that stadium nice. And now they're going to be doing an upgrade on that stadium where it's going to it's going to look like SoFi Stadium in LA.
Wow.
I mean, they're going to have a half roof on it, and which will be really nice because the temperatures, you know, in November will be down in the 20s and it'll be sleeting. You know, that's real Big Ten football right there. But you know, and you know, Northwestern. Well, and the thing about Fitz, remember, is that he took Northwestern as a linebacker to the Rose Bowl back in 1996. And that was quite a game. But yeah, I've met Gary Barnett. He was a great coach. You know, he was really Notre Dame wanted him really bad.
Yeah.
But Fitz, you know, he's very beloved here. But I'm telling you, you know, last year did not go over very well because the Cats only won one game, and that was the first game of the season in Dublin against Nebraska. And so, again, the lineup here last year was Northwestern didn't win a game in the United States of America. So, you know, I've just been talking to people here the last couple of days about all that. And, you know, they want Fitz to do a little bit better this year.
I love it. Yancy, you know what's cool? We have Billy Ray Valentine, the intern, William Halliday on. He's a counselor up at Camp Minotone, Alabama. In North Alabama near Chattanooga this summer, but Ken gave him some advice about stories. You know what he said? He goes, look, you and Bo Carter both said this to him. He said, you know what I'd be doing? I'd be going to Jeff Graba, the gymnastics coach at Auburn, and saying, hey, tell me about, you know, 2 or 3 other gymnasts on the team that you think can step up when Suni Lee is gone. Isn't that what a journalist is supposed to do, Yancy, is go find not just what's Captain Obvious, but 3 or 4 plays ahead. I love because, I mean, Ken, I've been working with Yancy for last 3.5 years on this show, almost 4 years in August. And that story you just said about Northwestern. And by the way, here's another one from, Jerry Lee Lewis from Memphis. We tore down the goalpost in 1983, I believe, when Memphis State at the time beat Ole Miss at the Liberty Bowl. So a year later, they did have enough people there to tear down the goalpost. But Yancy, this is what's fun about this show, man. You know, we get on here, freedom of speech. The First Amendment is alive and well here. But Yancy, you've got some great stories, I know.
Yeah, it was that 1983 game when Buford McGee was running back there at Ole Miss, Billy Brewer's first year at the Liberty Bowl. I remember that game very well. Ole Miss was on the 3-yard line.
Yeah.
They try to run it in on the left side corner of the hash mark there at the Liberty Bowl, and Memphis State, as they were called at the time. I still like the name Memphis State. I don't know why they changed it to University of Memphis. I get in arguments with my friends from up there because you don't know if you say Memphis, I could be talking about the Grizzlies. I could be talking about the city. There's all kind of different names for Memphis, but Memphis State, you identify who you are. But anyway, yeah, Ole Miss tried to score there on the corner. I believe their left outside linebacker made the play there on about the half-yard line to win that game. And I remember going back with my granddad out of that bowl game going, oh, my gosh, here we go again, another Ole Miss year. Then I think Ole Miss started 1-5 that year, and then won their last 6 games under Billy Brewer. That really galvanized the program there on the Billy Brewer. But you were just talking about that storm in the stadium. I remember that game in '83 well. But yes, that's Chuck Rounsaville, you know, the guy that's kind of tutored me through my process in this world of journalism, I guess you call it, or I just call it reporting. He's a great storyteller. He can really relate and tell you everything from back in 1968 to 2023. And that's what, you know, great writers are also great storytellers.
Well, and Ken, I don't know if you know Chuck Rounsaville, the Ole Miss Spirit, but I've been around him a few times, but you listen to him, he's genuinely seems like one of the nicest people, but he's serious and he's focused on what he does. But the great sports writers. Ken, when you're up there at Northwestern and you're from Texas. Are you from Dallas or are you from Austin?
I'm from Austin, Texas. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. So as we get ready, and what's really been fun, Yancy, is Bo Carter's usually on with us on Fridays, and both of them have a lot of history. Yours in the SEC and Southwest Conference, now Big 12, and now about to be the SEC. Ken, we're getting ready to have Texas join the league a year earlier. That's going to be a lot of fun. Kind of give an idea for when SEC fans – the Texas is on about 40 acres, the campus. It's this ginormous campus. And I was down there one time for an Auburn, Texas game, and we took a bunch of paint to make signs to put up in the stadium during the game. And we didn't realize that we were liquored up, and we'd taken an RV from about 8 of us from Mobile, and we were painting the signs. And we didn't realize it, and all the paint went through and got on the marble at the Lyndon Baines Johnson Library. But we were able to wash the paint off, fortunately. But I'm telling you, the game day atmosphere in Austin, kind of give people an idea. Outside of just the game, there's a little bit of entertainment and some pretty damn good food there too.
Well, that's the other thing that I was thinking about talking about today is I've been watching the both Texas and Oklahoma here for the last 4 months, and really paid attention to their spring games and what's going on, and of course watching the SEC spring meetings here a couple of weeks ago. And Texas and Oklahoma didn't get the vote, but they were at those meetings. And, talking about the 8-game versus the 9-game schedule and all that. But, Texas is called the 40 acres. That's kind of their nickname because it is on 40 acres. And it sits right in the smack middle of Austin, Texas. And it's about 3 blocks from the capital of the state of Texas, which, by the way, is larger than the Capitol in Washington, D.C., and
hold that thought.
And Texas built it that way.
Yeah, exactly. The Republic of Texas. We're going to be right back. Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America. Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline after this quick commercial. You can't beat music like that. That is real country. But you're talking about Austin and the atmosphere out there. And I know a number of people who are Texas X's is what they call them out there. Yep. And my father-in-law from my first marriage got a master's when he was in the Army. He was ROTC coordinator. He lived in Round Rock. And they're all from Harlingen and Edinburgh. And Big Mike Campbell from Vicksburg, Mississippi, Natchez, Mississippi, just came in over here to the Cherry Farm. He's going to be over there with us. We're having the big barbecue contest over in Wynne, Arkansas all day today and tomorrow, which means there'll be a lot of eating and a lot of drinking and a lot of getting together and telling some real true stories. But bottom line, Austin's an incredible place. We hadn't even gotten to Norman yet, but keep going. You're 3 blocks from the state capitol there in Austin.
3 blocks from the state capitol. And then, the stadium holds 102,000 people now, and it's full every game. And, people get there. It was Mac Browne that coined the phrase, come early, stay late, and wear orange. And that has stuck around now, ever since Mac left. And what started since Chris Del Conte has got there, better known as CDC. I don't know if y'all saw the story this week, but he supposedly said he was, or the rumor out there was he was offered or was, maybe not, he wasn't interested, he said, but, he was maybe kind of up for the USC AD job. And he said, I'm not going, I'm not interested. And, he's a great AD. He's done a lot for the school. But, in that the LBJ library where you were up to your shenanigans is literally right across the street from the stadium. And there's this massive yard grounds that are right across the street. So now, after the games, they put up a huge stage, and they always have these great bands. So literally these 105,000 people dump out of the stadium after the game, and several thousand of them go right across the street and keep on partying with these great bands, for everything from country to rock to whatever else. And I mean, it's just an all-day event. And every recruit that comes there, the first thing they're struck by is the city of Austin. And there's not many cities in the country that can offer, when you go to most schools, if they're in little towns or something like that, you think, okay, I mean, the school is the big attraction, but in Austin, the city really brings a lot to the table too for a recruit.
Oh, it does. And all my kids have been to many music festivals in Austin to hear the Widespread Panic and whoever else. But I'll say this. Yeah. And you think about my friend Bob Farrell was friends with JoJo, the bass drummer, the bass player on Widespread Panic. I remember going to a Grateful Dead concert at the Pyramid in Memphis in 94, 95. And I'm walking around with friends of mine. And the question was brought up, what are these people going to do if Jerry Garcia dies? And like a year later or so, he died. Well, Bob Weir stepped up. But the Grateful Dead channel that they have on Sirius XM, most of those concerts, you can just, ooh, that smell. You can just think about the concert. But Yancy, have you been to Austin? And Franklin's Barbecue, everybody knows about places, but you talk about my daughter was just out there in the last month for a couple of weeks. They'd been in Jamaica for a month. She's going to start touring with Bunny Wailer. That was the old band that was with Bob Marley. They spent a month in Jamaica working on a documentary and some other projects, and they've asked Hallie to start singing with them. And I always knew she could sing. She did try out and got to the final 50 for the role of Maddie in the remake of True Grit. That was a really good one. And we thought if she got it, they said, well, what are we going to do about school? They said, well, you take tutors with you, but they filmed it in New Mexico, I might add. But Yancy, how much fun. I remember when Texas came to Oxford just a few years ago, and Matthew McConaughey came, and people were renting out their condos, and the Texas invasion. But Yancy, are you fired up about that road trip now to Austin or Norman? But let's talk about Austin.
Man, I love Austin. Austin is one of the unique places in the United States. It is an incredible town. Yes, I've been to Austin many, many, many times. The hottest game I've ever gone to, that was kind of a ironic thing you said about Jamaica, because that's the only town I know of in the United States that feels like Jamaica. That Ole Miss Texas game, I don't know. I think it was back in 2014, 15. The
14
2 years that they played.
I think it
was. That just the whole experience. I've been to Austin city limits several times. Ooh. I saw the Dead play there. Not the Grateful Dead, but the Dead after Jerry died. Yes, I was at the Pyramid as well that you spoke of. You were talking to a deadhead. So yes, I love Austin. It's just a unique town. It's got all the different flavors. It's a melting pot of all kind of different people. I think it's going to be a great addition for the SEC.
Well, the funny thing is, Yancy, you're from Hattiesburg, but really you're from Vicksburg. You've been, covering Ole Miss for a long time, and you think about, Ken, these cultures. That's why the SEC chose Texas. They already have A&M, bringing in Oklahoma and Norman. The economic impact. Austin's a big city. I mean, there's a lot going on there, but it's
strong. Goodness.
Yeah, it's strong.
I was going to Austin a bunch in the 1990s, and to think about the size of Austin back then,
Yeah.
to where it is now. You know,
Unbelievable.
I'm sure a lot of people in Austin are not too keen on that, especially
Right.
the
That's
locals
exactly
that
right.
are there from generations deep. They probably complain about that every single day, I can
They
imagine.
do.
But yes, that and the heat. But look, Austin, you still can't beat it, no matter how big it gets. It's never going to lose its soul. You know, Austin and Oxford and Athens, Georgia,
Oh, yeah.
all three of those towns, you know, that's where all these musicians came out of back in the 90s, back in the 80s. And it's just a unique town.
Well, Yancy, I wanted to tell you, let me tell you something. Going back to Northwestern, you spend your final months of the master's program in Washington, D.C. And there were 3 Texans in my class. And so one day we opened up the Washington Post and find out in the spring of 1983 that Jerry Jeff Walker is playing the Birchmere in Alexandria, Virginia, which is just across the Potomac from DC. And so we round up, including Malka, we round up all of our Northwestern students that are up there. And of course, these are Midwestern kids, you know, they're kind of meek and mild. And so we say, come on, you're going with us, you know? And so we dragged them all over there. And I spoke at one of their weddings a few years later. And, you know, I said, I never thought I would see Sarah sitting on a beer keg, singing a Jerry Jeff song with the line, kicking hippies' asses and raising hell.
That is that's one of the greatest songs, along with this one.
Yep.
You know, that's something my dad is 94. He will still light up the old Scotch and water and sit out there and listen to Willie and Waylon. Those are his groups. Ken and Yancy, 1950 or 51, he and 3 of his buddies hitchhiked back when you could do that from Memphis up to the Grand Ole Opry. Of course, it was sold out. And one of the guys took a smoke break, went out the side door, and of course they snuck on in. Said half the people in the Grand Ole Opry were not wearing shoes, and they went up in the upper deck, people overalls and straw hats, no lie, drinking out of mason jars. Said that lineup that night was Roy Acuff, Minnie Pearl, Little Jimmy Dickens, Jim Reeves, and they brought the house down. It was like the return of the big guy. Hank Williams came out there, and he said, boy, I'm going to tell you, I will never forget that ever in my life. And he just absolutely just ripped it up. But and you're talking about the Texas culture out there. You know, Jerry Jeff Walker, I don't know, you know, which of his songs or whatever's the best, but that Texas coming into the SEC, Ken, on the serious football side of it, they're now going to be able to say, and I think we talked about this on the show, the defensive linemen have had a hard time saying, I'm going to Texas. The edge rushers maybe in the Big 12, because the games are so high scoring. Right. They're now going to be able to say, hey, we can offer you the same thing that A&M's been offering you, and be the next Jalen Carter, the next Derek Browne, the next Marcus Spears or whatever. Kind of give us an idea of how Texas is getting ready to come into the SEC, which, by the way, Texas has a winning record against every school in the Southeastern Conference in football, except for one school. Ken, if you can guess the one school that is, I'll buy you a steamer, pack of crystals, and you will be in a box of fluorescent bulbs and some sponges and a hot towel.
Vanderbilt. I know it's Vanderbilt.
Yep, it is.
Oh my!
It's Vanderbilt. They're 1-8-1 against the Doors.
Well, I hope we can
improve
it when we get there. But you know, it's the same thing with Oklahoma. You know, Oklahoma has also been doing the same thing in recruiting as Steve Sarkisian has. And I mean, he's been calling it the last 2 years. I've been recruiting big humans. And I mean, he understands that, you know, the SEC is built on big offensive linemen and big defensive linemen. And so he's going out there and getting those big humans. And, the running backs have just been incredible. And of course, last year, Bichon and Roshan, and this year, there are like 7 running backs that Texas has, and any one of them would start for any other school. But again, Texas has to win. And I was thinking about this the other day, and Oklahoma has kind of fallen into this pattern too the last 3 or 4 years. The one thing that's different about Texas and Oklahoma and say Alabama is that Alabama wins the games they're supposed to win. They don't lose games like Texas and Oklahoma do to Kansas, to Iowa State, to some of these schools that there is no way on God's green earth that Texas or Oklahoma should be losing to. And I think that's going to be the big thing that Texas and Oklahoma are really going to have to get accustomed to in the SEC, because, there's no off week in the SEC with anybody. And, and so I think that's been the frustration with both Oklahoma and Texas fans is, Iowa State has had Oklahoma's number for like the last 3 or 4 years. And, for Texas to lose to Kansas a couple of years ago, that basically cost Charlie Strong his job. And it's just been ridiculous. And then, look at like A&M. Since A&M and Arkansas went from the Big 12 to the SEC, they haven't done much. It's hard to get past the LSUs and the Alabamas and the Georgias and everything. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how Texas and Oklahoma, even though they're football powers and everything, how they're going to break and try to, get above the top tier schools in the SEC.
I'm going to make a prediction.
Yeah.
The 2024 schedule is released. I guess it's still going to be this 8-game schedule, obviously, but you are going to have the University of Texas, their first SEC game is going to be at Ole Miss with Arch Manning coming in there as the starting quarterback, and it is going to be absolutely wild. That is my prediction for the 24 schedule.
Crazy? That would be crazy.
Yeah. If the SEC does not do that, then shame on them, because that will be the game of the year. There will be about 75,000 Ole Miss fans puking before the game, seeing Arch come out there for Texas, and it will be an absolute throwdown. I can just about guarantee that will be the first game that Texas plays as an SEC member, will be at the Vaught-Hemingway Stadium with Arch Manning as their quarterback.
Well, can I stay at your house?
Yeah.
Hey, you and many others. The last time Texas played here, it was absolutely a blast. Texas bought the house. Ole Miss came over there the next year. They brought about 30,000 fans over there to Austin. It was those 2 games. It was a great memories for both fan bases. But I just think that would be a really, really headliner to open that season. Maybe even the season opener would make it even better. But I got a feeling it will be the conference opener for both teams. Will be Arch Manning leading Texas there at Vaught-Hemingway.
Well, I got somebody wants to say a little something about that.
There you go.
They didn't like those hippies back then, did they?
Well, I'll tell you one thing though. Jerry Jeff Walker, "L.A. Freeway," is that his best song, or "Missing in the Wind"? This is what's about to happen. But I do remember Matthew McConaughey, all right, from Uvalde, Texas.
Yep.
This is what's going to be. Toby Keith, big Oklahoma fan out in Moore, Oklahoma. This is what's about. And Ken, you cover all these schools, but I do think the learning curve is going to be a lot shorter than people think. And let me say something real quick. We got a few more minutes about tomorrow. Today, of course, 2:00 ribbon cutting ceremony at Rumble Boxing, 1835 Union Avenue. But remember, come by tomorrow, free classes, sign up online ahead of time, great food, live radio broadcast, awesome DJ, Stick'em food, free studio tours, 25% off clothes and accessories, and last chance to join at a discount. That is rumbleboxinggym.com in Memphis. Big event today, 2 o'clock. Check them out on our web. Great and blessed to have them as a sponsor. Tell you what, guys, got to get y'all on together again. Yancy, next time Bo Carter's on here with us. And Ken, I know Ken takes kind of a sabbatical after football season because mentally, yeah, it's incredible. And Yancy, I get it. I'm crazy. I think I've got a little bit of OCD and ADD in me here, but I like doing this stuff, every day. It's a rush. But this has been one of the funnest shows we've had. Ken, thank you so much for taking your time to join us. And
Thank you.
let me say that most often we see
Good
the face
talking
of
with you,
Christ
Ken.
released among us. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Don't ever miss an opportunity to thank the people who help you along the way. We're all blessed. Go bless others. And Yancy, both of y'all, thank you so much. And Yancy, you can catch him Monday nights, 6 p.m., Sports 56 WHBQ, Super Talk Mississippi, the Rebel Yell Hotline. And Ken, how do people keep up with you? You do a lot of great work, and you are Mr. Football. Love having you on here.
Just go to FWAA.com and you'll see all the great work of all the great journalists of the Football Writers of America.
Hey, reading is like lifting weights with your brain, man. And so you get a great workout when you do it. Till then, until tomorrow, have a great day. We'll have a great lineup in the morning. We are out of here.